I beat Pokemon Violet only using Pikachu clones. Along with this extra hard rule set, I'll also be doing this challenge deathless. Here's how it went down. Kanto has Lieutenant Surge, so let's give Paldea a taste of General Shock. Director Clavell shows us these terrible 3 Pokemon who we cast aside for our true starter, Flash the Palmy. Let me know who your favorite Pikachu clone is down in the comments. Also, if you're excited for this video, be sure to subscribe and let's try to hit 2,500 likes for these little electric guys. I don't know how a sandwich powers up what's clearly a machine, but I guess our mom was packing something special in this one. Next, we deal with Daddy Issue Arvin before continuing on our way to school. In South Province Area 1, we catch ourselves teammate number 2, World Champ the Pachirisu. Before entering Mesagoza, we have a fight against Nemona I'd normally skip over, but this may prove to be difficult. I gave her Sprigatito so she'd have an electric resist as I send out Flash as my lead. After nuzzling the cat to paralyze it, Palmy can quick attack for a knockout before its leafages do us in. Next is a Palmy of her own, except our neighbor has a secret weapon up her sleeve, terastallization. We hit pretty hard with quick attack, but not willing to risk a crit from a second Thundershock, I now go to Pachirisu. 2 mud slaps and a quick attack from our squirrel finish its distant cousin, winning us our first true battle. Before even getting to school, we pick up the first piece of our clothing set, the electric sporty cap. We can now kick off our 3 main objectives and really start to play the game. This takes us to West Province Area 1, where we can catch the Gen 1er himself, Pikachu, who I fittingly name Ash. Also, I go ahead and catch the Gen 2 clone Pichu, which, even being a pre-evolved form, will still be an eligible encounter for this run. At the level cap of 15, it's time to take on the first gym leader Katie and her bug types. I lead Flash against Nimble, but without a physical electric type move, we're looking at a 3-hit KO from Thundershock. After 2 and a crit double kick from the bug, I swap into Ash, whose special attack immediately gets lowered. Thanks to the held Wise Glasses, our Pikachu's Thundershock is still strong enough to pick up the knockout, bringing in Tarantula. I Thunder Wave to make my following Electro Ball stronger, and after 1 bug bite, we get Paralysis luck on the next turn. This means 1 more Electro Ball gets the kill, leaving just the ace Teddiursa. I have to pivot to Pachirisu as the bear terastallizes and starts building Fury Cutter damage. I respond with a Terra of my own, but instead of attacking, I opt to drop Teddiursa's attack 2 stages with Charm. A dodged Fury Cutter here is massive for the team, as I can now spark for just under half the bear's health. Another bug-type slash is healed off by a held Oranberry, but then Pickup grants our opponent some recovery as well. At -4 attack, we take 9 damage, then 2 more sparks with another dodge drop Teddiursa, earning us a very dangerous first gym badge. This brings us to our first Titan battle against Krabby's older brother. World Champ's defense is too much for the rock type to deal with, as after dropping its attack to -6 with Charm, Flash can come in and dig a few times for the win. The rematch with Arvin as our partner goes pretty similarly, but since Pachirisu was blocked, we couldn't switch to Palmy. With 1 Herba Mystica down, we can now challenge the Artesian gym leader Brashus and his grass types. But first, I catch a few more Pikachus until I get one holding a light ball, increasing our attack and special attack on Ash. Unfortunately, I forgot about the Sunflora battles before Brashus, so I am a bit overleveled for this fight. I start things off with Flash against Petalil, immediately nuzzling for the para as we're Mega Drained. Now I use Swift for some chip, but another Mega Drain basically heals the grass type up, and now I bring Pikachu in as the foe is fully paralyzed. Ash now has Nasty Plot, so after getting to +2 special attack and tanking Mega Drain, we can one-shot Petalil with Electro Ball. Next is Smoliv, who drops to the same, leaving only Sudowoodo on Brashus' side of the field. As we both terastallize, Electro Ball does about 65% to the now grass type, whose Trailblaze leaves us on 6 HP. Even with the speed boost, Sudowoodo is still slower than us, as 1 more condensed Sphere of Lightning gets the KO, earning us badge number 2. Since I went 1 level over the cap, I didn't think it was appropriate to evolve Palmy before the battle, but at level 19, we finally get Palmo. This will be our final form of our Gen 9 clone, since Palmod is more on par with Raichu rather than Pikachu. After Arvin and I make quick work of the Flying Titan Bombardier, it's finally time to get started on our last mission, Operation Starfall. The first boss to take on is Giacomo and his dark types. Palmo kicks things off with a 3-hit arm thrust to drop his Pawniard without taking any damage. Now it's time to face the real threat, the Starmobile. I immediately go to the defensive all-star of the team, World Champ, whose metal sounded on entry. Snarl then does big damage as our squirrel gets a charm off against the big hunk of metal. I then use Tiny as a pivot, surviving a crit Snarl to reset Pachirisu's special defense. One more charm is all we can afford to use before we're in danger of being KO'd, so now it's time to pack on the damage. Flash resists Snarl, and Swift doesn't do much damage as we see low kick hits for around 30%. After a metal sound and a second sweep, I don't want to risk a crit, so I go into Ash to eat Swift. We're snarled, reducing the damage of our Terra boosted Thundershock, so now it's all up to Palmo. Luckily, she can swap in on a Snarl, survive the following Swift, and win the battle with one last low kick, disbanding the second squad. In Levincia, I can buy the next piece of our electric set, some high tops, and how could I call myself General Shock without the Pikachu phone case? Then we take a quick detour to Kitakami, where we can add arguably our most important team member, Darkside the Morpeko. Thanks to our newest member, we make pretty easy work of Nemona's team before taking on Iono's gym challenge, finding Mr. Walksabout. What can't Clavell do? Director of the academy, pretending to be a student, and participating in gym challenges? Get this man an Oscar. Anyway, it's time to see if Iono actually has Pokemon knowledge or if she's just a React streamer. Ash leads by setting up 3 nasty plots, then one-shotting Wattrel with Thundershock. Next is Luxio, who's dropped as soon as it hits the field by a +6 disarming voice. The Fairy-type move is a 2-shot into Belly Bolt, who water guns us between hits, leaving Pikachu with only 8 HP. As Miss Magius comes in, we can finally give the Gen 1er a rest and swap to World Champ. Charge Beam unfortunately gets a special attack boost, which could derail my whole plan. Regardless, Pachirisu survives a +1 Hex next turn and is able to set up Light Screen. Now I hard swap to Morpeko, who only takes 12 damage from the resisted move. We're confused on the following turn and hit ourselves, but if I let Light Screen run out, the former Ghost type will sweep me. After a second Hex, Darkside luckily snaps out of her daze and connects Foul Play for solid damage. We break through a second dose of Confuse Ray, but now our Light Screen is down. Like a true warrior, Morpeko lives the next Hex on 1 HP, then snaps out of Confusion once again to finish Miss Magius with Foul Play, narrowly escaping death and netting us badge number 3. It's just one tough battle after another in this run, as now we have to take on the leader of Team Star's Skater Squad, Mela. We start things off with a crit Volt Switch from Ash against her lead Torkoal, doing massive damage. Pachirisu can then come in to eat a Clear Smog, and on the following turn set up our trusty Light Screen. Unfortunately, it takes 2 Mud Shots to finish the Fire Turtle, who pops our Citrus Berry with some Flame Wheels before going down. Now it's time for the Starmobile, which is where World Champ really shines. We alternate between Charm and Fake Tears, resetting Light Screen once it goes down. With the souped up Revavroom at -6 attack and special defense, we chip away until I decide to get Pikachu to +6 from nasty plots, luckily survive a crit Blazing Torque, and win the fight with essentially a +12 Volt Switch. After low kicking the Alaskan Bullworm into the dirt, we can move on to Cascarafa City, where the 4th gym lies. But before that, it's time to get completely dripped out as we buy some yellow tights, the yellow nylon backpack, and the piece de resistance, the electric off-road helmet. Before heading to Port Marinata for our gym challenge, I make a quick stop to the outskirts of Medali City where I can snag a Deden. The gym challenge consists of deciding whether to go to college or spending those funds on some seaweed, so even though we'll be dumb forever, at least we pass. Kofu should be one of the easier battles of this run, so let's see how it goes. We start with 3 Pachirisu charms, unfortunately being crit by an Aqua Cutter on turn 2. Now I nuzzle the Psychic Fish and set up Light Screen before bringing in Pikachu. With 1 nasty plot under his belt, Ash can Oko with Electro Ball, survive a Wugtrio Headbutt to get the next knockout with Spark, and complete his sweep with a +2 Volt Switch into the now Water-type Crabominable. Our journey now takes us into Tag Tree Thicket, where we catch our final team member, Pseudo the Mimikyu. This game doesn't have the Gen 3 duo of Plusle and Minun, the Gen 5 clone Emolga, or the Gen 7 Wall Togedemaru, but these 6 are going to have to take us across the finish line. And what better time to have the full team assembled than to take on one of the hardest fights for me in this run, Atticus. King starts by parabolic charging his Skuntank, who retaliates by using Toxic. A held Pecha Berry cures our poison as we now Volt Switch out to Palmo on the next. We're then forced to take 2 turns of poison damage as we dig underground, but it's worth it as we finish Skuntank off with 1 hit. Thanks to Flash's natural cure, a Volt Switch heals her of her status effect, and Pseudo can hit the field to tank Bulldoze with its Disguise. Knowing the Steel Poison type will use Iron Head, it's a quick swap back to our little fighting type who survives the hit and gets some recovery with a Citrus Berry. Since we outspeed, Palmo can pick up a second KO via Dig, then Atticus sends out Muck. It's now another Volt Switch to Mimikyu on Sludge Wave, but since we outspeed the pile of sewage, we get to set up Light Screen before its next attack connects. We now trade Shadow Sneaks with Sludge Waves, eventually getting poisoned, which means it's time to swap. Flash's utility is mostly used up, but thanks to Light Screen, she can live 1 more attack to do some chip with Volt Switch. This allows World Champ to come in on the last turn of Light Screen, and thanks to some held leftovers, get back to full health as he kills with Spark. I'd like to charm the Starmobile down to -6 attack, but its first Noxious Torque poisons Pachirisu, so we only get to use 2 before it's time to switch. Ash is able to tank 2 of the poison type move in order to set up Reflect and bolster the rest of my team's defenses. I bring King back to the field, who dodges a pair of Smogs to charge, boosting the power of her next electric type move along with her special defense. After getting off the 3rd charm I needed, we paracharge for recovery, doing around a 6th to the behemoth. Although Reflect wears off, we continue to paracharge the Starmobile all the way down to about a 1/3 before we get poisoned at low health. Thankfully, we still have a fully healthy Morpeko in the back. The first Noxious Torque that hits after we terastallize poisons us, which means this is going to come down to the wire. We get 2 Magnet Terra boosted Sparks off, but with only 18 HP left, we'll get outsped and killed. Except, I'm too smart for this game. I packed Quick Attack for this very instance, clicking the move and doing just enough damage to get the knockout, barely crawling out of this battle alive. Now it's time to battle one of my favorite characters in all of Pokemon, the exceptional everyman, Larry. He leads Komala, and even though I have Mimikyu on my team, I actually decide to lead Palmo and switch turn 1. You'll see why later. Anyway, we Drain Punch the normal type and get Yawn, so now it's a swap into Pikachu to nullify Sucker Punch, then back to Pseudo, whose Disguise gets popped by the same before we get a Drain Punch KO. The Dunsparce is next, but we immediately burn the Land Snake with Will-O-Wisp as it glares us. Thanks to the burn, Drill Run doesn't do much and Drain Punch will be a 2-hit knockout. We get fully parried before taking the Dunsparce down, but this just leaves Larry with his ace Staraptor. Pachirisu can now come in to tank Aerial Ace, then get 1 charm off before being brought low by a Terra boosted Facade. Pseudo comes back in on the next, and then 3 Drain Punches later, we have ourselves a 5th Gym Badge. So why did I need to lead Palmo? We're immediately thrown into a fight with Nemona, and I need to save Mimikyu's Disguise for her newly evolved Meowscarada in the back. The fight goes smoothly, with the most important part being to make sure I KO her 3rd Pokemon Palmo with a U-turn from Pachirisu to get Mimikyu on the field at the same time as Meowscarada. Terra boosted Flower Trick is strong enough to KO any of my Pokemon except maybe Pachirisu, but he can't really do any damage to this thing. Therefore, we let our Disguise tank the hit and connect Will-O-Wisp frame 1 on the cat. Now with Leech Life recovery, Pseudo can live 2 more guaranteed crits and close out another battle against our rival. In Monte Nevera, we hype up the crowd while taking down famous Florida man, so now it's time to battle Rhyme. There's never been a more embarrassing loss in rap battle history. This kid should hang it up for good. Anyway, Morpeko and Mimikyu kinda rinse her whole team, taking down Banette and Mimikyu with Shadow Sneaks, then Houndstone and Toxtricity with Bites in order to get our 6th Gym Badge. Against the Titan Iron Treads, we go back to a tried and true strategy, charming the Menace down to -6 attack, then letting Mimikyu take it down with Drain Punches as Arvin Scovilling gets the kill with Fire Fang. This brings us to Alfornada, where yet again I forgot about mandatory battles, so we're gonna be a bit overleveled for Tulip. Speaking of the model, let's jump right into our battle with her. Morpeko leads with foul play into her for Rigorath, just missing out on the one-shot, but only being hit by the resisted Crunch in retaliation. Next turn, a Bite of Our Own gets the kill, and Gardevoir hits the field. I Volt Switch out to Mimikyu, whose disguise is ruined by Dazzling Gleam, but next turn we outspeed for a Shadow Claw knockout. For Espathra, it's a swap back to Darkseid, who eats a pair of Shadow Balls, then destroys the Ostrich with 2 bites. With Tulip down to erase Florges, I can Volt Switch back to Pseudo, but we actually take more damage than I thought we would from Moonblast. Regardless, we outspeed for a Leech Life, allowing us to survive one more and finish this battle on the following turn. We're on a bit of a gym leader roll, so why stop now? Time to battle the 8th and final leader, Grusha. His lead Frostmoth gets cooked by Darkseid's Fire Fang, bringing in Beartic. I now Volt Switch to, you guessed it, Mimikyu, whose disguise can handle Earthquake no problem. We Drain Punch, then take a big chunk from Icicle Crash, but on the following turn, one more Healing Fist gets the KO. We rinse and repeat against the Titan, dropping the Terra Whale Pokemon with 2 Drain Punches as it Ice Spinners us. Last is Altaria, who actually confuses us with Hurricane after our first punch. I swap to King to tank the next, then Paracharge as Ice Beam hits back hard. From here we can Volt Switch to Flash, who can survive one beam, then outspeed for a low kick to finish the job. With the 8th badge, we're free to take on the Pokemon League, but first we need to clean up the rest of the Team Star bases and the final Titan Pokemon. Speaking of Team Star, our next battle is against the Fairy Boss Ortega. Ash immediately sets up Reflect against his Azumarill, who hits Play Rough for over half our health. Now I Volt Switch out to Morpeko, who's hit by Aqua Tail on entry. Our next Volt Switch gets the kill as I bring Deden in against Wigglytuff. We trade Discharges with Play Roughs, then once Reflect goes down, Paracharge for the knockout. Darkspun is the last Mon before the Starmobile, taking around 40% from Discharge before its own Play Rough brings us low. Next turn I Volt Switch out to Mimikyu, whose disguise tanks the first hit. Thanks to Leftovers, I can cycle Protects and Bulk Ups until Pseudo is at +6 defense, but due to the opponent's Baby Doll Eyes, we only get to +4 attack. From here, a Shadow Claw finishes the dog off and the Rukba-mobile comes out. This thing basically can't damage us, so a few more Shadow Claws and a Shadow Sneak are all it takes to get the KO and disband yet another base. Like all the other Titans, Dondozo and Tatsugiri are no issue for us, so with Mabostiff finally saved, we can take on the last Team Star boss, Eri. After Pikachu sets up Reflect, this becomes a good old-fashioned Mimikyu sweep, bulking up and playing rough or drain punching the entire team for one-shots, including the Starmobile. Watch Mimikyu attack this flying Garchomp. Can anyone tell me where it goes? Now we're in the endgame, which means we have a few tough fights coming up. First, believe it or not, is Director Clavell. He leads our Oranguru, who's crunched by Darkseid, into the red. The Orangutan sets up Reflect before dropping to Volt Switch, which lets me bring Mimikyu in against Poltegeist. Shadow Claw does just over 50% to the Teapot, who actually opts to Will-O-Wisp our MVP, having its attack. I can now bring Morpeko back into a useless Sucker Punch, then as Clavell decides to Shell Smash, we obliterate the Ghost with a Dark-type Aura Wheel. Next is Abomasnow, so I Volt Switch yet again to Pseudo, whose disguise was never broken, allowing it to take Woodhammer head-on. We then return Poltegeist's favor, burning the snowy tree as it sets up Aurora Veil. Thanks to Snow Warning, World Champ is forced to eat a 100% accurate Blizzard, but after getting Light Screen up, he can take a second one much better. It's now a Volt Switch to Flash, surviving Woodhammer and getting the KO with Low Kick as Aurora Veil runs out. If you couldn't tell by now, Speed and Volt Switch are extremely important to my team, doing some chip and allowing me to pivot. Pseudo actually manages to dodge Fire Blast on entry, and next turn a crit Drain Punch connects, leaving the Hellhound on just a sliver as our Light Screen protects us for one last turn. A second Drain Punch gets the kill, bringing out the Director's most annoying Pokemon, Amoonguss. King eventually finishes the Mushroom off with Volt Switch, putting Palmo in perfect position to close this fight out. My only chance at one-shotting Quaquaval is a Terra and Magnet-boosted Wild Charge. Flash has just enough health to survive the recoil, and with a measly 5 HP remaining, we manage to eke our way into a win. And here I was thinking Rhyme was the true battle rapper. We've finally made it to the Elite Four where the hardest battle of the whole run awaits us. Member number 1, Rika. Can our team of electric rats and Mimikyu take on a squad of fully evolved ground types? Who better to lead than the world champ himself? We set our light screen up in front of Whiscash, whose earth power doesn't even do half to us now. We can then U-turn out to Pikachu, who's brought just into Citrus Berry range to be able to survive a second hit and set up our second screen. Darkseid is next up, taking just under half from the move and picking up KO number 1 with Seed Bomb. Donphan coming out second instead of another special attacker is exactly what I want to see. Pseudo immediately swaps into an Earthquake and it's time to get to work. Unfortunately, we miss Will-O-Wisp, but the last turn of Reflect helps mitigate some of the damage we take from Iron Head. We connect our second attempt, meaning now Pseudo is in the driver's seat. I bulk up to +2 attack and defense before deciding to Drain Punch instead of risking a crit. Now I can go all the way up to +6, where Mimikyu proceeds to knock out the armor Pokemon, Camerupt, Dugtrio, and the ground terastallized Clodsire, all with Drain Punches and a Shadow Claw to finish. Next, we have tiny but mighty Poppy leading her Caparaja against Palmo. A single low kick decimates the Iron Giant, then the Psychic Steel Bronzong comes out to play. I Volt Switch to Morpeko, who nullifies Zen Headbutt, then fire off a huge Aura Wheel for KO number 2. Corviknight drops to one of the same, but in full belly mode, our signature move becomes Electric type. Magnezone takes over half from our Hangry mode attack, and its light screen is useless as we brick break through it for the next KO. This just leaves the child with Tinkaton, and as much as I'd like to stay in, I can't let Darkseid get hit by Play Rough. I bring Pseudo into the move, but I guess I didn't heal to full before the fight, so our disguise wasn't intact. Regardless, I can now go to Palmo on a resisted Stone Edge, then outspeed to drop the Steel type with a single low kick. 2 down, 2 to go, and my boy Larry is back for revenge. This time he's using flying types, leading Tropius against Darkseid. A quad effective Ice Fang gets the one-shot as the businessman brings in his ace from our first fight, Staraptor. Volt Switch almost does the bird in as Pseudo comes in for free on close combat, then gets the KO with Drain Punch. I forgot to switch Shadow Claw back to Play Rough, so against Altaria I bulk up as Flamethrower pops our disguise. After we get to +2 and take a crit Moonblast, we just don't have enough power to one-shot the dragon, so we're forced to take one more before the cloud goes down. The electric flying Oricorio and the terastallized Flamigo both dropped a +2 Shadow Claws, with the latter landing a Brave Bird between hits, but this was still a pretty simple victory. No Elite Four would be complete without a Dragon Master, and Paldea's very own Hassel is our last challenge before the champion. His lead Noivern air slashes Pseudo's disguise and manages to get the flinch turn 1. After another, we one-shot with Play Rough, but then Haxorus comes in and I switch out to Deden, taking a little less than half her health from Iron Head. 2 Play Roughs from the Gen 6 clone get the knockout as she hangs on through another Iron Head with 22 HP. Then Hassel brings in his Fairy Killer, Dragalge. Volt Switch lets me bring World Champion to tank a Sludge Bomb, then we set up Light Screen to help us eat the next. Another V-Switch brings Morpeko in, who's sadly poisoned as he enters. Regardless, a Dark-type Aura Wheel gets the knockout, bringing in Flapple. Ice Fang makes quick work of the Grass Dragon as the newest pseudo-legendary Baxcalibur finally shows its face. The dragon terras as I Volt Switch into Mimikyu, making Glaive Rush useless. Now for good measure, I Terra our Pikachu wannabe in order to obliterate the Icy Lizard, earning us the right to challenge the top champion, Geeta. Speaking of the chairwoman, let's claim our spot as a champion-ranked trainer. She leads Espathra as I send out Darkseid. By protecting turn 1, we switch over to Hangry mode and can fire off a massive Dark-type Aura Wheel to quickly go up 1-0. Avalugg is next, who's a physical wall but very frail specially. Volt Switch does about half to the Iceberg as Mimikyu comes in on an ineffective body press. Now we can burn the block of ice and start bulking up. At +2, we Drain Punch for the knockout, then switch to Flash to eat Iron Head from King Gambit. A 4 times effective low kick knocks the king off his throne, then Go-Goat comes in. As I do in any dangerous situation, I click Volt Switch, going into Deden on a Zen Headbutt. I make a slight misplay this turn as I Volt Switch again, giving the GOAT the opportunity to use Bulk Up as it stares down Dark Side. I decide I need to burn this thing as another switch brings Pseudo into play rough. As we connect Will-O-Wisp, the Grass type boosts to +2, so things could get dicey. Play rough looks like it'll be a 2-shot, but then a Horn Leech means we're getting outpaced. I bulk up on the following turn as we survive another hit of the draining Antlers, then at a -1 deficit, Play rough is strong enough to get the kill. I'm not too concerned about Veluza, but it does do big damage to Morpeko with Liquidation as we swap back in. Regardless, I can protect to get my belly full, then Aura Wheel for a knockout, just leaving Glamora between us and champion status. The Area 0 resident Terras as we Volt Switch, then Earth Power takes a huge chunk out of Pachirisu's HP bar. Even with the Spadef drop, our Citrus Berry gives us just enough health to set up Light Screen and hang on through a second Earth Power in the red. Now I Volt Switch to King, who survives the next, and another hit brings the Rock type into range of the OG Ash. Sludge Wave connects for less than half of our HP, then the only Water type move any of the clones can use, Surf, gets fired off by our best buddy to wash Glamora away and win us the battle. Since we have a few levels on Penny, the fight against her goes smoothly, then Mimikyu can bulk up sweep our battles with Arven and Nemona. That leaves us with one last battle in order to complete this run. It's time to take on AI Turo and his legion of futuristic Pokemon. He kicks things off with a big Sludge Wave from Iron Moth as Pachirisu sets up Light Screen. We have just enough HP to survive another, so World Champ can nuzzle the upgraded Volcarona before Volt Switching out to Palmo. With our opponent fully paralyzed, we're free to hide underground, then fire off a dig for the knockout. Iron Thorns is next as we Volt Switch to Pseudo, and I think you all know what's coming at this point. Disguise is just way too good of an ability. Coupled with Will-O-Wisp, Bulk Up, and Leftovers, you basically create a guaranteed setup on any physical mon. Once at +6, Pseudo completes one last sweep, knocking out the new T-Tar, Iron Hands, Iron Jugulus, and Iron Bundle with Drain Punches, then Iron Valiant with Shadow Claw. With that, AI Turo travels to the future to stop the time machine and save the world, finally completing our deathless challenge of Pokemon Violet with only Pikachu clones. Once we got Mimikyu and Bulk Up, we kinda broke the game, but strategizing for a lot of these fights was really tough. I was also surprised at how much utility Morpeko had throughout this run, especially since I've never played a Gen 8 game. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.